Hello again. It is Wing Nation presented by Sage Fruit. Talking sprint car racing, our favorite time of the week. We are so glad that you have joined us. Steve Post in our Concord, North Carolina studios, joining us from our Lethal Chassis studios up in Pennsylvania. It's Ashley Stremme. Hello, Ashley. How are you?
I am great.
We've survived the Weicker Memorial, barely, which is always the case. Had a ball. Sprint Car World continues on. This coming weekend is Hall of Fame weekend, so we're going to talk with Johnny Gibson here on the program. He is being inducted into the Sprint Car Hall of Fame. The Sprint Car World just keeps on rolling, and we roll along as well. Let's take a lap around the Sprint Car World, and one of the things that we started doing this year is we broke off. We used to do a Thursday podcast, and Ashley, this has been fun because we broke it in 3 different parts. And it's allowed you to do interviews, Aaron to do interviews, and myself to do interviews. And we have had a ball. I'll just start off and I'll get the lesser of all of them out of the way. I'm doing a series called The Post Office, where I talk with people I just want to talk to. Here's a little sample of a conversation I had with my buddy Wayne Johnson. The guy gave me an envelope. The promoter gave me an envelope. I never asked him what it paid. I just went up and did it. And he paid me $25, and I sat there on the bed, and I thought, man, I must be the luckiest SOB on the planet. Look at this. I got $25 and everything. It's just, you don't see, and I talk to young announcers, and you don't see that willingness for people to do that these days. It's just kind of a culture thing.
Right. And just like you shared that story, but I've got a story that I used to drive to Little Rock, Arkansas every Saturday morning to go drive for Bobby Sparks. And I remember many times, I was just a kid. I had no money, I worked for my parents, but they paid me what they felt like I guess I was worth or deserved or whatever. Still lived at home. But I would drive to Little Rock, Arkansas with a tank of gas in my pickup and enough money to get in the pits. And I had to make sure I made some money to get home, or I was stuck, or I had to borrow money from Bobby Sparks, who I was driving for at the time. And there was times I'd get there, buy my way in, and hey, Bobby, can I get $5 to get a hot dog and a Coke? Or hey, because we're going to make something, you know what I mean? But if we were ever in a spot where we didn't make any money, I was going to have to borrow money to get home. So that just goes to show, this many, many years ago, but that's how bad I wanted to race, and I just don't think that there's that many people left like that anymore.
Ashley, I am having a ball talking to people that I've always just wanted to talk to. I talk to in the pits and have those conversations. Our co-host, Erin, though, because she's a racer and an engineer, she's the smart one of the group. She gets into some pretty good conversations, doesn't she, Ashley? Things you and I don't even understand.
No, I know what they're talking about. I just don't know how it functions, So to hear when they get so technical and stuff, it's cool to see Erin and it kind of like light her little light bulb and flip that switch for her.
It really does. We hear, as you know, Erin, and that's her podcast. Earlier, she sat down with Dave Blaney.
You mentioned it's not as easy as you get older to race and keep up. What makes you think that? You won a race at your track last year with the World of Outlaws. You're doing all right, but what is it that you think in your mind as you get to be? Is it your perception? Is it your timing? Is it all of those things?
Yeah, Sharon's a great equalizer, right? Slow and slick, and all you do is make your car do all the work, and you got a shot. So,
I'm pretty sure there's some driver input, but sure.
Well,
pretty sure I couldn't do it.
Get my car.
Don't tempt me. Don't tempt me.
I don't know what it is. There's something between the eyes and the brain that just kind of goes away, and I can't explain. I think when I was younger, if the cushion was over there, I could be looking here, still be an inch of where I needed to be. I could just do it all. Now I have to be staring at it. It's just not the same.
Now, having you ran a full season 2018 and you've run a decent amount, does it help when you're doing it more often, or do you just still notice things like that in general?
It doesn't help. It's just more frustrating and more frustrating.
More pressure, more frustration, all the things.
So we'll focus on something I can maybe do. Right?
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
It's I don't know. It's a strange thing, and you see some guys don't seem to struggle with it, and some guys do, and it's awesome.
as you know, with Aaron Evernham, part of our podcast series that drops on Thursday. Stay with us. When we come back, I get a chance to catch up with future, present Hall of Famer Johnny Gibson. He joins us next. Welcome back. It is Wing Nation, presented by Sage Fruit. Let's go to the Hercules Tire Hotline. Is it Hall of Famer or pending Hall? I'm not sure. We got to figure this out. John Gibson, the legendary voice for the World of Outlaws, join us. Hello, John. How are you?
Steve, I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on.
Where were you at? What were your thoughts when you got the call? I'm assuming from Bob Baker that you were going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Where were you at? What was that moment like?
Yeah, I was actually I was hanging out in Yates Center, Kansas, in the motorhome, my girlfriend's place. And I got a phone call from Bob Baker saying, hey, you're going to go into the Hall of Fame this year. And I honestly thought somebody must have put him up to it. I just like, there's no way. That's just mind blowing. It still really hasn't sunk in. I mean, I know I'm going to go to the Hall of Fame and there's going to be a ceremony and everything like that. But it still just really hasn't sunk in that I am part of the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame. Just so overwhelming. Again, for somebody who talks for a living, I'm at a loss for words when it comes to the Hall of Fame.
When I saw the list, I'm like, this makes all the sense in the world, and yet I can't imagine anyone expects it either. It's got to be it's got to be one of those calls that is just out of the blue. Great. When was it? Was it before Christmas and you had to keep it secret for a while?
Yeah, it was actually. I'm not sure exactly when it was. He told me that they would be releasing it during the Chili Bowl, so it was probably early December because it was about a month before I could tell anybody about it.
Gosh, that had to be worse. That had to be the biggest challenge of all, right?
It was. I have to admit, my girlfriend was here with me, so she knew what was going on. She kind of heard the conversation. So Melody knew what was happening, and I did call my dad and tell him, but I swore him to secrecy, and I figured I could trust him.
John, when I look at this class, is there someone from this class that you have an extra connection with? I mean, you have a connection with all these people now because you're in the same class. I get that. But is there someone from this class or a couple from this class that stand out and you think, man, that's really cool, I'm going in with so-and-so?
Well, I think you look at Dennis Roth and Tony Stewart for sure, because Dennis has, I can't think of anybody, maybe Todd Quiring, maybe, that spent more money on sprint car racing over the past 30 years than Dennis Roth has. And what he's done for the sport, the opportunities that he's given to drivers and to crew guys, and the support he's given to World of Outlaws and sprint car racing on the West Coast. And then, of course, Tony, who I've known for a long, long time, because when I first moved to Indy, even before I started working for the World of Outlaws, I'd run into Tony all over town when he was still doing USAC stuff and had just started IRL stuff. I'd run into him at the, at Dio's radio show at Kelly's Pub on Tuesday nights. So to see where he has gone in his career from USAC and IRL to Cup champion and car owner and all that sort of thing, and to actually be able to call his World of Outlaws wins too, that was very special to me.
I got to be honest, and you mentioned Dennis Roth. When someone last year said Dennis was not in the Hall of Fame, I literally went on the website to confirm that because I was kind of shocked about it. And I don't ever get into insight. Everyone goes in the Hall of Fame when they're supposed to go into Hall of Fame, But man, I'll tell you what an iconic career Dennis and Teresa. What they've done is amazing. You're absolutely right on that.
Again, you look at the amount of money they've spent on race cars and engines and crew guy salaries, and they've been in the promotional game as well. They've helped promote races on the West Coast, and just all the stuff that they've done, all the support they've given, and you have to be grateful for people like that. And I mentioned Todd Quiring as another, just people who have that kind of money and choose to spend it on the sport that we love. and not go out and buy a boat or buy a summer house someplace or the other things that so many other people would do with that type of money, but they choose to support sprint car racing, and that is absolutely unbelievable to me.
Yeah, it really truly is. The team owners that do that, the people that do that, I'm the same way, because it keeps guys like you and I talking about it. That's the thing. And
exactly.
Man, I don't know about you. My worst fear was I'd have to get a real job sometime. I think that's where that's like my biggest fear on the planet.
A little bit of a story here. When I first started working for the World of Outlaws, I think a lot of people know I wasn't the announcer. I was just selling souvenir programs for the series. And at the end of that first full year, 1996, Ted Johnson called me up into the office of the little mobile command center, what we call it now. Back then it was actually just the souvenir trailer, and sat me down and said, Johnny, we're going to try something different next year. And my first thought was, I have to go out and get a real job now. And that's when he told me I was actually going to be the series announcer. But yeah, that was definitely a big fear of mine. I mean, it still comes into play sometimes that I'm, somehow this is going to end and I'm going to have to go back and sit in an office at the same desk every day from 9 to 5. And honestly, after 27 years of this, I have no idea if I could do that. Probably not, I would say.
When you look at the announcer's role, when that conversation, when you started the following year there, you were the PA announcer at the track. The role has changed so much, Johnny, and it's enhanced the role. The shows are just better than they've ever been before. The Dirt Vision shows are better than they've ever been before, and the live shows are better. Just talk a little bit about some of the challenges in adapting and getting your arms around all of the audiences you deal with.
It has really been a long, long process. In fact, when I first started, that first year in 1997, I didn't even call all the races at the racetrack. The main reason I was hired was to just do our PA reads, our sponsor reads. And a lot of times that's all I would do. The track announcer would still call the actual racing. I'd just get on and talk about our sponsors. And a big shout out to Norman Martin, who was promoting a World of Outlaws race at Battleground Speedway in Houston, Texas. And he was the first one that ever gave me the mic for the whole night and said, hey, it's all your deal. You call the races, you do everything. And it evolved from there to me calling all the races live. And then we started doing some live audio. So I was doing, live audio broadcast, which was basically just an audio cast of what we were doing at the racetrack. And then when the video came into play, there was a lot more to manage. And now we've got Chase Rodman in the pits. We've got Hannah Rickards with the fan engagement side of things. And now, honestly, I think it's not only better, but it's made things better for me as well, and better for our audience, having Hannah and Chase with us, because now I don't have to run down from the booth to the track to do the dash draw and come back up and be half out of breath when the next race comes on the racetrack. And again, for Hannah doing the dash draw interviews, I've done so many of those over the years with so many of the same people. It's difficult to keep my questions fresh. You go through that stage where there's only so much you can think of, and having a fresh voice in there with a fresh insight onto the sport, I think has improved our broadcast.
I sent her a text. Her dash draw at Lincoln was just fun, and because you're right, it's the perspective, and she's just getting to know the Pennsylvania Posse fans, and the rivalry. Right. Where you it's expected down there. I agree, and the different voices. You guys do a really, really good job. The other thing that you guys have when you're working through this year and the last couple of years, Johnny, is the level of competition and the racing on the racetrack. Man, I'm telling you what, you get to call a lot of really, really good races.
A lot of people will think that I'm saying this just because it's kind of my job or because I am the World of Outlaws announcer, but I honestly think over the past 3 years, sprint car racing with the World of Outlaws, NOS Energy Drink Sprint Car Series, and across the board, whether it's the All-Stars or USAC or local programs in Pennsylvania, I just think sprint car racing over the last 3 years has been as good as it has ever been since I first started going to sprint car races back in 1981.
What I think is neat is the dynamic of it right now, Johnny, is that, you have your core platinum member World of Outlaws, but you've got wild card guys like Larson and Brian Brown. Then you go to the regions in Ohio or Pennsylvania or California. It's just fun, and it just every night, if you I can't understand if you did not like what you saw last night. It's something different, but I think that dynamic is part of the appeal of the World of Outlaws, that there's just so many different elements to each program.
It really is. For years we've talked about how the World of Outlaws, the appeal of the World of Outlaws is the fact that we go in and take on all comers, take on the local challengers every place the series goes. But to be honest, for a lot of years, there really wasn't much of a challenge. It was maybe Pennsylvania, maybe on good years. Now it's everywhere we go. We go to Knoxville, there are drivers there capable of winning. We go to California, there are drivers there capable of winning. Ohio has drivers capable of winning. It's all over the country. It really is the greatest show on dirt.
Before we cut this off here, I need to ask you something far more important than all of this. How is Claude? You're a cat dad. I'm actually a cat dad too. With the travel, cats really work well. How is Claude doing?
Claude is doing fantastic. I'm surprised he actually hasn't come into the picture here at some point, because he's been roaming around the motorhome while we've been talking. He's kind of looking at me like, who are you talking to? There's nobody else here. But yeah, he's been around. Like I said, I'm kind of surprised he hasn't gotten into the picture, but Claude is doing great. He has adjusted really well to life on the road. He's gotten a lot of fans. Actually, people come up to me and ask about Claude at the racetrack, so it's become kind of amusing.
It's a funny thing. I was a dog person, and I acquired a stray cat, but it works well with the travel schedule and everything like that. I could not believe the personality that cat had. I mean, if you would have told me that cats have the personality they do, I mean, it's a real blessing to have a traveling partner like that. So I love the journey. I really do. Johnny, we're right up against it time-wise, though, but this weekend with the Hall of Fame induction, you guys are at River City on Friday, Houston's on Sunday. So my understanding, you're going to be able to get a chance to be at Knoxville and enjoy the entire day, enjoy the ceremony and everything?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll race at River City's on Friday night, then I'll get to Knoxville Saturday morning. We'll do the induction ceremony Saturday afternoon, and I'm going to stick around and watch the races Saturday night because my dad is coming out for the induction ceremony, and as big a sprint car fan as he is, he has never seen a race at Knoxville before. He's never been to the Nationals. He has never been to Knoxville before, so I'm going to hang out with Dad and enjoy the races Saturday night, and then it'll be a long day Sunday, but Houston's provides great action, so that'll keep me awake, and then I'll catch up on my sleep on Monday.
As a guy whose dad took him to the racetrack, I got chills on that one. I really did, because our fathers that took us to the racetrack and I know your dad shared that passion with you. Gosh, that is so awesome. Well, John, enjoy the festivities, enjoy the ceremonies. Congratulations, and thanks for joining us here on Wing Nation.
Steve, thank you very much. And again, I'm going to say it now because I say it in all the interviews, and I mean it most sincerely. I am the luckiest race fan in the world. I get to see the world's greatest sprint car drivers, and I get to talk about them. Again, all so overwhelming to me to end up in this spot, but again, I'm just so very fortunate and so very grateful for this opportunity.
One of these days, I'm going to debate you on it because I think I'm the luckiest one, but it's all right. We both have it really good. Thanks, Johnny. Great chatting with you.
Thank you, Steve.
There we go. That's John Gibson, the voice of the World of Outlaws. Stay with us. More Wing Nation in just a moment. Always great to hang out with Johnny Gibson and talk to him. Appreciate him joining us on the Hercules Tire Hotline. This is Wing Nation, presented by Sage Fruit. As our lap around the racetrack, we are talking about our podcast series. Turn number 3 is a podcast getting off track with you, Ashley. What's the premise? What are you doing on your podcast?
Yeah, so I'm chatting with all the women in this sport that make it possible, whether it's moms of racers who have stemmed out to be their PR person, or wives or business owners, just kind of catching up with everyone and anyone who has anything to do with this sport that's a female.
Absolutely great stuff, like this conversation that you had with Mandy Pittman.
Mandy, with the trials and the tribulations over the seasons, is there one moment that was probably the lowest of lows that you can look back on now and go, wow, that was really a defining moment for us, for Darren, for his career, and just really was kind of a building block, even though at the time in the moment, it probably wasn't enjoyable.
Yeah, I can know the exact day that happened. We were at Chili Bowl. I was hugely pregnant with Taylor. She was due in March. It was in January. We had just gotten back from Australia. We knew Australia did not go well with our car over there, and Reed was our car over here. We had everything prepared for the outlaw season, and just like that, we got fired. So, 6 weeks before the season, I'm not even sure it was 6 weeks. I ran all the books at Titan. I did, ran the race team per se. So it was really big, a low point of like, I'm pregnant. We have a race team ready to go, but we don't have a race team. What are we going to do? So it was a tough few months there. Obviously, Darren got another ride really quickly, and I think he went to Florida and almost had probably, besides the 9-car, some of the best results that he had. But those few weeks of just questioning, what did we do wrong? How could we have done it better? Why is this happening? All that goes through your mind of what could we have done? Or, it just all runs through your mind when you lose something like that. And then we went to PA for 4 years. Obviously, Katie was born. We had a great results in PA, and that led us to the 9-car. So, like, look, when you can see the big picture now, it's like all of that fell into place, because when we were off the road, once we got back in the 9-car, we appreciated it. I feel so much better. I felt like we appreciated it so much better for what it was worth, and we tried to take that opportunity, race-wise, personal-wise, family-wise. We just took it in more. So it at that moment, it was a really low point. But when you look at the big picture of what we did, it actually probably helped us get much more perspective in the career, family, everything.
Fun stuff for sure. That is Getting Off Track with Ashley. I misspoke earlier. I said 3 podcasts. We have 4. Another one is called The Work Area, where the 3 of us just sit down and do what we do all the time, talk about sprint car racing. Let's go to turn number 4, though, in our lap around the sprint car world. We talked to Johnny Gibson. The Hall of Fame weekend is this weekend in Knoxville, Iowa. Drivers being inducted are Bob Fry, Eric Gordon, Terry Gray, Tim Green, and as Johnny mentioned, Tony Stewart. Owners, mechanics, Ralph Heinzelman Sr., Walter T. Ross, and Dennis Roth. Promoters, media, Johnny Gibson, Jack Cromer, Robin Miller, and pre-1945 Melvin Slim Rutherford. A lot of times, Ashley, when we talk about these, there's a lot of names we recognize. Some names we don't recognize. One of our friends, Jack Cromer, he is a spectacular photographer. I love that it incorporates photographers and announcers, people like Johnny Gibson and Jack Cromer in this.
It's true. It's much like my podcast, the people behind the scenes that don't actually get their name announced because they've won a race or they made a good pass. It's people who make this sport go around. And without them, we wouldn't be where we are. And Jack, incredible photos. And if you follow him on social media, his wildlife photography, absolutely phenomenal. So it's great that these guys kind of get a tip of the hat too in the induction.
And he could not be a nicer guy. He could not be a nicer guy. If you've seen a really cool sprint car photo, I just find it amazing how he captures the emotion in a face so well, Ashley. I think that's got to be the biggest challenge of it, and he really does a great job with that. Jack Cromer does, that's for sure.
It's true. You can take 9 million pictures of a race car on the racetrack, and it looks great, or you can practice and get a different angle or better lighting, but it's awesome when you can catch that actual work ethic.
No doubt. Great stuff. Absolutely. Hey, we appreciate Johnny Gibson for joining us. More important, though, than all of that, thank you for joining us here on Wing Nation, presented by Sage Fruit.